This is the Fan Finance Show from talkSPORT with Rick Kelsey, the show for football fans who feel like they've been priced out the game. It's time to get you back in. Now, we all know that football is expensive, but did you know that the average supporter in the UK is spending £3,000 a season on going to football matches? It all adds up. It's the kit, the tickets, the food and beverage, the travel on the way. It is expensive. That equates to 13% of the average salary. Are you serious? Compared to before COVID, things cost on average around about 20% more. This is the show that looks at how to get things cheaper. Overall, the Premier League is the most expensive league to travel as a fan in Europe. Yeah? Any surprises there? There are a few clubs that get a little bit more punchy than our top clubs like Real Madrid, but overall, it is an expensive job being a fan in the Premier League. But let's look at some facts, shall we? So ESMA looked into the price of being a football fan. Can you guess where the cheapest season tickets are available? West Ham. Well done, West Ham. The average cost of the cheapest season ticket, £19 per game. The most expensive? No prizes for getting this one. Arsenal, £60 a game. That's the cheapest season ticket available. So let's get into away days. Travel. It is a fortune in the UK. Have you seen the price of a train? I worked out that I could fly to Liverpool from London 3 times for the price of a train ticket this morning. If you are going to take the train, you need to be getting yourself a rail card. What's a rail card, you ask? There are 6 different rail cards on offer. Everything from over 60s rail cards to under 30s rail card. Yeah, under 30. Might just scrape in. Maybe not. It used to be you could only get a rail card until you're 25, but now you can buy a rail card until the day you turn 30. So buy a rail card when you're 29 and 364 days old, and you'll get it to the day before your 31st birthday. All these rail cards give you a third off tickets. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not in that bracket, I'm not under 30, I'm not over 60. Do you travel to the game with someone, or do you know someone who's traveling to an away game with you? Well, this is where the 2 Together rail card comes in. I think this is one of the best rail cards around. Get this, it will save you a third off all your tickets. My mother and father-in-law get this rail card for when they visit us to go to away days. Yeah, visit us. They don't even live in the UK. Anybody can get it. A 2 Together rail card, and you get it for 30 quid. You'll pay that back on your first journey. Talking of getting to a game, have you heard of the Megabus? No? There's probably a reason. You can end up travelling from Plymouth to Newcastle for a tenner on some of these promos. £10. That will save you more than just a few quid. When the fixtures come out, even if you just go to a one-off game, try and plan that game in advance because the rail tickets come out 12 weeks ahead of time. So you can book a train for a game in 3 months' time and literally save hundreds of pounds if you're a family travelling. Speaking of travelling, how many Premier League clubs are in London? 7. Yeah, exactly. Now you can link your rail card, which gives you 30% off travel, to your Oyster card. The Oyster is the card that you use to get around London's buses, tubes and overground network. Ask a TfL member of staff, a Transport for London member of staff, to link your rail card with your Oyster. That means you will get a third off travel while you're in London. Why have you not done that? Let's talk a little bit more about if you've got to get to a game but you've forgotten to book in advance. Well, even if you're a few days away, one way of saving prices on a rail ticket is to do split tickets. So say you're coming from Liverpool to London. You can do a split ticket from Liverpool to Birmingham and then Birmingham to London. You can get that ticket at around 50% cheaper than if you just booked the direct London to Liverpool return. Let's talk about making some cash on what you're going to have to spend anyway. So if you're buying a train ticket, have a think about buying it through the Uber app. If you book a train ticket for £50, it gives you 10% in Uber credits. So that means you'd have £5 for next time you want to take an Uber to go somewhere else. Also on travel, who likes a freebie? Taxi apps often give you one free ride if you sign up to that app. Now there are multiple of these different apps around the country. Get on these taxi apps, first free ride, you could go from the station to the game for free. First go, but say there are 4 of you, that's 4 goes. Also on travel, getting to games can be expensive. Not only the petrol, but the parking fees on the way. So it'd be really good if you can split those costs. Your team will have a fan forum and a Facebook page. I went on one for Tranmere and we did a car share. We went from the Wirral to the Midlands and it ended up costing us around about £20 each. If we'd just gone on our own, that would have been more like 80 quid. And we split those car parking fees. Look for car share schemes on the fan pages of your team. One more thing on parking. Search Rent a Drive. It's the people who live close to the big grounds, not just football, rugby, cricket. People who live close sometimes rent out their driveways. It means you can park closer to the ground and it might be a lot cheaper than those big car parks and how much they cost that can charge something like £20 or £30 a game. Rent a Drive. Google it. There will be one in a ground near you. So you've got to book yourself a hotel. You've got a big game coming up. Well, you might make a weekend of it. Use a cashback site. A cashback site basically means you're still going to book the hotel. You found the price, you found where you want to go. Log onto a cashback site, search the hotel or the booking site, and you'll get a percentage of that booking into your cashback account. By the end of the season, you could be quids in. I'm talking hundreds of pounds. I did this for 1 year and earned over £1,000 in cashback. For doing what? Just my basic spending. If I was going away for a weekend, I'd do it through the cashback site. At the end of the year, £1,000 cash out. Cha-ching! Right, cheap drinks time. The pubs around grounds are often the punchiest, and sometimes they'll even put up their prices on game day. Can you believe that? Dynamic pricing at pubs is actually a thing. One of the best tips that I've used for going out in and around the games is using the hotel bars. Often the cheapest, often have promotions, often have special prices for people who are staying in those hotels. And if you are going to go out before and after the game, don't forget to check out if there's a Wetherspoons in the town or city that you're visiting, because prices in spoons are considerably cheaper than elsewhere. Speaking of spoons, they do meal deals for a tenner where you can get a meal and the pint for, you guessed it, £10. But on this deal, you get to pick the pint. So instead of having the £2.50 one, why not take the £5 pint? Also, well worth thinking about eating before you get to the ground. Prices in and around the ground are so expensive. You're talking at least a £5 a pint. Get it before you go in. Speaking of the cost of a pint at a club ground, well, ESMA have done some research on this. We spoke before about how West Ham have some of the cheapest season tickets available. But, there's always a but, isn't there? West Ham have got the highest price in the Premier League for a meal and a drink, £12. The lowest, well done Ipswich, £6 for a meal and a drink. I suppose when you weigh that up, you've got the option there, haven't you? Because West Ham, cheaper season tickets, but really expensive food and beverage, so they kind of even it out. But you haven't got to buy the food and drinks in the ground at West Ham, have you? Whereas you do need the ticket. Let's talk tickets then. The vast majority of tickets in the Premier League and even in a lot of the Championship clubs come on a members first basis. You pay about £30 for a membership and then you get the pick of the tickets. It's pretty hard to get a ticket in many places if you're not a member. So even if you're just going on a one-off or fairly irregularly, it's probably worth joining the membership. But not everybody wants to do that. There are lots of resale sites around, but always check out the Trustpilot rating for the resale sites to make sure if something goes wrong or that ticket doesn't turn up, you are not going to lose your cash. Speaking of those resale sites, there are some where they'll sell tickets right the way up to a few hours before the game, and that can mean that you could get a ticket below face value. Again, check their rating and make sure that your money is guaranteed if that ticket doesn't turn up. And we all know how expensive tickets are. 17 of the 20 Premier League clubs in the UK increased the price of their cheapest season ticket for adults this season. So we all know we've got to save the pounds. Speaking of which, did you see Manchester United increase their prices to £66 for their basic price of a ticket for adults and concessions? Mid-season, 66 quid. It's gong time. The Fan Finance Show money moment of the week. Congratulations to Brentford, who've announced £10 away day tickets for under 18s. So anybody going to a Brentford game away is only going to be charged £10 if they're under 18. But not only that, if you're under 18 and come to visit Brentford in the away end, you're only going to get charged a tenner too. More clubs, please. So a quick wrap up of what we talked about on today's show. Travel. Make sure you book in advance. Get your rail card if you can. If you can't, think of the two together rail card and consider coaches. Hotels. Use cashback sites. Book well in advance and avoid surge pricing when everybody's trying to book at the same time. Tickets. Think of resale sites, even on the day itself, and think about becoming a member for about £30 a year for your club, because that's where most of the bulk deals will come out. Food and drink. The closer you are to your seat, the more expensive the price of your pint. Think about that. The further away you are from your seat, the cheaper it gets. But we want to hear from you as well. Have you got a tip that we should hear about, which means you get from A to B cheaper, or you get your tickets cheaper, or you get your food and drink half price? We want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching the Fan Finance Show on talkSPORT with me, Rick Kelsey. We'll have another one for you really soon.